All right, welcome to the May 27th, 2021 Select Board meeting done via virtual Zoom meeting. Can I have a motion to open the meeting, please?
So moved. Second.
Second. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I am also aye. I guess I can call on the town administrator. Could please read the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we will amend or approve the agenda and then a period of public comment. And then for the consent agenda, we have 4 items. It's the payroll warrant, a select board meeting dates of June 10th and June 24th, police chief search committee meeting date of June 10th, and consideration of a pouring application for Pauline Bounds, June 7th, 2021 annual meeting of the Sherborn Community Center Foundation Board. So that was a late addition to the agenda. Item 2 is COVID-19 team update. Item 3, 7:15 p.m., continuation of May 13th, 2021 dog hearing. Item 4, consideration of local declaration of emergency enacted by the Select Board on April 2nd, 2020. Discussion regarding town hall reopening. Item 5, litter pickup. Recap with Catherine Rocchio, Kim Chester, Addie Mae Weiss. And I think that should be litter up, not, it's a program called Litter Up. Item 6 is Mass DOT award letter for shared winter streets and space program, Sean Colleen, DPW director. Number 7, vote to approve and sign the June 15th, 2021 annual town election warrant, MGL Chapter 39, Section 1 with Jackie Morris, town clerk. Item 8, Town of Sherborn Library State Grant Anticipation Note Renewal, Heidi Doyle, treasurer. Item 9, consideration of proclamation for Susan Tyler. Item 10, that's a surprise, Susan. Item 10, continued review of the annual appointment process. Number 11, consideration of interim finance director position. Number 12, consideration of routine business with select board reports and town administrator report. Then adjourn to executive session under the following exemption: to discuss strategy with respect to threatened potential litigation if the chair so declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the select board in town, and the chair does so declare. To discuss the town library pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 21A3 and 7, and Suffolk Construction v. DCAM 449, Massachusetts 444, 2007. And the second item for executive session is strategy session discussion to prepare for negotiations with non-union personnel pursuant to MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 2, Town Administrator.
Thank you very much. Do I have a motion relative to the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as read, unless anyone has any revisions. I don't have any.
Second.
Paul?
Just under public comment, I wanted to say something. I'll put it under public comment.
Okay, good. We have 2 requests for public comment then. Just okay, so I'll take that. I believe we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I am also aye. Now, under public comment, I got an earlier request from Jeff Waldron, but he was going to maybe delegate it to Mike Kickham. Is Mike on the
I don't see Mike.
Okay, do you want to say your public comment, and I'll recognize Paul?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind people, I don't know if you want to share the screen, David, but it's on the town website also. We're having the Memorial Day ceremony at Pine Hill Cemetery at 10 a.m. on Monday morning, Memorial Day. The high school band is going to play. We'll have the usual speakers and bagpiper, and you can see the program there is on our website. And I believe Mike has added ice cream sandwiches back to the agenda with COVID team approval. So that's usually a pretty big draw too. So we just want to have people show up. We're not going to do a parade. We're just going to assemble at 10 at the Pine Hill Cemetery.
Very good. Thank you, Jeff.
I
Okay.
have a, I have a question about that, if I may.
All right, Sue, go ahead.
Yeah, Susan Tyler with the Cemetery Commission. Where are people parking and all that? Are they suggested to park down below and walk up the hill, or?
Yeah,
how
I'd
are you-
have to check with Mike on that. He was at a softball game tonight. He may join in a few minutes, but I think they're instructed to park down below or walk there. Because normally, as you know, nobody parks there because we've walked from the Butler Street to there.
Right.
So I think that the intent is that people will park down below, but not park up above, and
Okay.
probably park, by Pilgrim Church or other places, and walk over.
Okay, I only would suggest for those that if they choose to drive up there, be it someone with a disability or elderly, if they drive up,
Yeah.
please not park on the grass.
Yes.
Thank
And-
you.
And Mike is meeting with Zach and Lieutenant Bento tomorrow morning. So I'll tell him to advise them too.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Susie.
Very good. Okay, if there's nothing further to that, I'd like to recognize Paul Durensis, as he also wanted to make a public comment.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to take a moment to commemorate and celebrate the life of Elliot Taylor. Elliot Taylor passed away recently, and he had become a fixture at select board meetings. He would come pretty much to every select board meeting for years. He would pretty much speak at every meeting. He was a constant attendee at town meetings, very much interested in what the government was doing. He passed away. I wanted to offer maybe a moment of silence for the memory of Elliot Taylor.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And very nice as well.
And if I may, for those that are interested, Elliot's service is going to be at Pine Hill Cemetery on June 10th at 10 a.m. for those that are interested. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Sue.
you.
All right, up next is agenda item number 1, the consent agenda. Before I make a motion on that, I got a late request today to add a select board meeting on, what was it, Diane? Was it July 15th? You're still muted.
Yes,
Yes, July 15th, Deb Seffy would like to meet to do year-end transfers.
So do we simply want to, even though it looks like we don't go that far into it, just simply want to add that just to make sure it's on the list?
yeah, it's an annual thing that you have to do as close to the 15th as possible. This year it happens to fall on a Thursday, the 15th. So should probably block it off.
I have a question. Would they be ready by the 8th? Because that's when our normal meeting would be every other week, but
Yeah,
but in July, maybe we won't have too much on the agenda, so we could just wait till the 15th to have our meeting.
right. She didn't think that it was going to be ready for the 8th. We did talk
Okay.
about that.
You want to
I
talk?
see Deb's
Deb's
on here.
talking.
She'll go to sleep.
You got to unmute yourself, Deb. There you go.
Yeah, I think we'll still be getting invoices on the 8th just because the 5th is a holiday.
Okay.
So I think it would be much cleaner to do it on the 15th.
Are
That's-
you meeting
so
that
maybe we
Wednesday?
should,
Go ahead, George. Sorry.
I was gonna say, maybe we should plan on canceling the July 8th, which would be our normal every other week, and move it to the 15th.
Before we actually cancel, maybe we just, since the 8th is not listed on our current upcoming select board dates, let's just simply add 7/15.
Okay.
And we'll see how it, as it comes up. As the date comes up, is there anything emergent? Is there a large agenda before we officially cancel it? We'll just simply add, if it's okay, a friendly amendment to add 7/15/21 to the list under II under consent agenda.
Yeah, are you
So
meeting
moved.
Wednesday, Deb, that day before with advisory? Usually you meet with advisory before the select board, I think, don't you?
Well, I haven't been part of it before, so I'm not sure. I can, but
I-
that's
with-
news to me.
Steven's on
Jeff,
here.
last year we had a joint meeting.
Oh, is that what we ended up doing? Okay, that's a good idea.
Maybe we could check with advisory.
Steven's on.
It's on here, actually.
Steven's on here.
to see if they want to meet jointly on the 15th to do this.
He's right there. Go ahead, Stephen.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think last year we did a joint meeting. So I think that would probably work for us.
Okay.
good.
So let's simply
That
add
would
it.
be
And we have over a month to go. So frankly, if it needs to change, we have a couple more select board meetings of which that date can change. So at least for the purpose of the consent agenda, simply adding 7/15/21, I think will be sufficient.
Great.
So I
thank
made
you.
that motion.
Yep. So
to add
it
that date.
is moved to add that date to the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
And Paul, that's also a motion to approve the consent agenda as well?
Sure, why not? Yes, thank you.
All right. So all in favor, Jeff,
All right.
George,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
and I am also aye. So those procedures took a little bit longer. So we have a dog hearing coming up at 7:15. I know we can start a little bit late. You cannot start early. For the COVID-19 update, I guess how long do we think it'll be? Should we do it now or should we hold it off? I see Zach is here. I don't know if Daryl's here.
Daryl's here too.
Why don't we zip through that and then we keep the agenda. We have a long agenda.
I know. Yep, you're right. Because we also have number 4, which is going to be relative to COVID as well.
Yep.
Daryl, do you want to add anything?
Well, frankly, I just thought we'd do it all together with the town hall reopening, et cetera. But if Zach has something he wants to talk about now, that'd be fine.
We got 2
No,
minutes.
again, I think it will all, it would be better to talk about it in conjunction with the town hall update. I think it's all related. And with the hearing coming up in a couple minutes, I think that would be best.
And like I said, we could delay the hearing a few minutes, particularly since I can't start it early. I literally have a couple minutes we need to kill. So if you have anything to say.
Yeah, I would just say this, there's been a lot of encouraging news out there from the state, and based on some of the case counts that we've had in town, we earlier this year we were having trouble in particularly the fire department with a number of cases that weren't related to work at the department, but we did have several members contract COVID-19, and knock on wood, we haven't had any in months. So there's certainly a lot of different things trending in the right direction, it appears, and it's very encouraging to start seeing some of these events like Memorial Day, and hopefully we can get back to a sense of normalcy soon.
Agreed. Very good. Very good. All right. I know, like I said, we'll talk about it later, but there was a meeting earlier this week from the COVID team to talk largely about building reopenings. And I look forward to discussing that soon.
It has, just to add on that, it's been great for the girls playing lacrosse now that they're playing without masks, and especially last week when it got really hot, to be able to have them out there with no masks was a relief for them. I think it was very, very good.
All right, 7:15. So per agenda item number 3, we have here a continuation from the May 13th, 2021 dangerous dog hearing. Can I have a motion relative to the hearing, to open the hearing?
So
Jeff, if you could mute people, Jeff or David.
Eric and Paul, you need to unmute again.
Yep.
There you go.
Sorry about that, guys. It's easier to mute all.
So I'm doing a roll call vote here. Just we have a motion and a second to open the hearing. Jeff, how do you vote?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Paul? I think he said
Aye.
aye. Okay. And I am also aye.
Yes.
So just a reminder, the testimony portion of the hearing was closed last week, and the submittal of evidence was also closed as well. As mentioned at the last meeting, we would allow one statement from each council to be made and then bring the discussion back to the board. So are the, and we'll do it in the order as prescribed, such that the counsel for the complainant will speak first, and then the counsel for the dog owner will speak second. I'd like to do no time limit on this, but just, be reasonable about it. It also is not a back and forth with a rebuttal and so on. It is your chance to make a statement for the board to consider. So is the counsel for the complainant available?
Yes, right here, Mr. Johnson,
Okay.
Seth Jacobs.
Yeah, please make a statement as you wish.
All right. Thank you again for having us, members of the select board. Hopefully it's the last day you have to see our faces. As you know, I represent Ashley Stanley and her wife, Kelly Dennehy. On March 21st of this year, Ms. Stanley sustained a brutal dog bite to her right hand. She lost her thumbnail, shattered the bone in her hand. Right now is very little use of her right dominant hand, and she's not sure when she'll be getting full use back. She also has been treating for post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's one issue we have here is the severe injury to her, but also her dog. Duchess is the dog that caused these injuries. There have been a lot of talk from experts or a paid expert and family and friends who said Duchess was a great dog, but we know that there have been, from the dogs in this family, 2 people have gone to the hospital in a 6-month span. The photographs submitted as evidence show that this was a bad attack. And in addition to the injury on her hand, she also had rips all over her clothes. And of course, the dog sustained serious, deep injuries. This hearing was initiated because instead of showing remorse and contrition, the Allens, who were not present at the time, refused to take responsibility and have instead blamed the victim. They put no trespassing signs facing the Stanley home, put some type of chicken wire fence up facing the home. This has caused Kelly and Ashley some great distress. Ashley was unequivocally not located on the Allens' property or any time prior or thereafter. She's a responsible dog owner and would never purposely enter an electric fenced area. The submitted plot plans and satellite images that we've submitted also show where we were. This was corroborated in the police report to Sergeant Ted Stone by Rick Goddard. He responded the day of the attack and found Ashley and Tucker and the Allens' dogs at 29 Cider Hill. This was noted clearly in the police report. The Allens were not present. This was the case on March 21st. And if they were present, this probably would not have happened as severely as it did. We appreciate that they have a trainer and that they're trying to make attempts to engage their animals in a responsible way. As we've stated all along, we do not want harm to come to any of their dogs whatsoever. My clients know that they love their dogs and don't want them to suffer in any way, shape, or form. But these animals remained unsupervised, and as my clients believe, as long as that's the case, there is no possibility to ensure safety for the neighboring community. Ashley and Kelly did try to communicate with the Allens soon after. The first attempt was an introduction on November 6th at 2 p.m. Ashley went over there to introduce herself. She left a message with one of the children, but did not hear back. 2 days after that, she also attempted to talk with the Allens and the Mish family when they were putting up no trespassing signs at the edge of the property. She was met, instead of an apology or I'm sorry this happened even, she was met with hostility from both parties. From the outset, my clients have never wished harm to Duchess. But this is a case where a woman has the right to go in her backyard and even a few feet in her beyond her property, a property that she takes care of anyways, and not have to worry about getting attacked by a dog or having her dog attacked. Again, there's plenty of evidence here that this happened not on the property of the Allens. And because the Allens, instead of showing this type of contrition and being apologetic, decided to blame the victim, here we are today, asking the town to name this dog a nuisance and take reasonable efforts to ensure the safety of the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have counsel for the defendant here?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Who is it again, please?
Jeremy Cohen.
There we go. That's right. That's right. Yeah, please feel free to make your statement, please.
Okay. You know, my experience with these cases gives me the sense that I get to speak out when I think things are not going according to plan, which also requires that I speak out when things are going according to plan. And I do want to say that of all the hearings I've had, the fact that this board took the time to call a timeout, say, we need to look at everything that's been submitted before we make a decision. That's what I spoke about when I first started speaking, that we need to get to the right decision the right way. And that's the right way to do it. So thank you for the diligence you put in doing that. And I can say that is exceptional because most boards wouldn't do that. So what counsel just said was just a restatement of his opening statement, which nothing in what he said is testimony. Nothing's been supported by the evidence. There's been no witnesses to come forward. They talk about their two key witnesses, yet neither one of them appeared. And you know, it's so insulting to still call a fence, which we established is a livestock fence, to call it chicken wire. The failure to pay attention to the facts is exactly why Ashley got bit, because she didn't pay attention to the local law that says you must have your dog on a leash, and if not on a leash off your property, the dog must then be have good recall, and you have to have a leash on you. Now we know from the records submitted that she didn't have a leash on her. Her wife had to bring her a leash. So they're admitting to not being in their backyard. So that's like when the police pull you over and you admit to having 3 drinks. We know that, so at least we know she's admitting to 3 drinks, and I feel that the evidence supports the fact that she was actually on our property for a few reasons. One is 20 feet into our property was found her items, glasses, coffee mug, and we heard testimony about that, actual live testimony. And another reason we know what counsel just had to say is there's no basis to say that she knows. Actually, his quote was that she's responsible enough that she would not enter an electronically fenced in area. There's no demarcation on the ground. There are no flags at that time. She would never know whether or not she was in an electronically fenced in area. So yeah, if you want to win, you got to do it the right way. You got to sustain your burden of proof. And that's why we have a governing law here, 14157, which requires the complainant to testify under oath. She has chosen not to. Well, right there, she has not sustained her burden then. We have had no eyewitness testimony from her. That alone, under the law, means the board is justified in dismissing this action. Secondly, we don't know who started it. We do know there was a dog fight here, and we've seen no information from vet records to support any type of large bill. We know that neither person nor dog stayed over in the hospital. In fact, when Ashley chose to reach into a dog fight, as a responsible dog owner, she knows that getting bit in the hand is very predictable. It's clear that Duchess never sought her as a human target, and that's another reason why the case should be dismissed. This is not a predatory dog. This is not a dog that runs into the street. This dog is terrified of cars. When she sees a car, she retreats. Now, in the paperwork and in counsel's initial opening, we heard that Duchess had been in trouble before, that she had bit someone, but fortunately, in the subsequent paperwork provided, we see that it wasn't Duchess at all. And we're here about Duchess. The bites to the dog, as you heard testimony, whether it's from a paid expert or not, it's somebody who knows what he's talking about. And the bites were to the areas of the dog where dogs have their arguments. The neck area, the thick neck area in the back. These were not these were not lung punctures. This was not going after major organs, anything like that. And then you look at the fact that Ashley, who claims that I mean, they can't use enough harsh words to say how bad her injuries were. Well, the doctor gave her 5 Vicodin. Clearly, the doctor was not thinking long term when he prescribed just 5 Vicodin. Ultimately, the complainant and her counsel, her civil counsel pursuing a money damages claim, they cannot change what goes into the definition of a dangerous dog, a nuisance dog, or ultimately a dismissal.
Did he drop? Sorry.
Based on everything we've received, we've had a lot of opinions and words and statements, but we haven't had testimony. They didn't have any other witnesses besides the complainant's wife. And I'll tell you, they're concerned about protecting the community. In these cases, when the community wants to be protected, they show up and they say, "You board, protect us. This dog is dangerous." But instead, the community showed up and said, "Hey, this is a good dog. They got it wrong. The facts, which nobody can actually testify to the actual facts, the facts have it that our community is safe. Having the Allens have this dog, and to say that they essentially could care less and turn their backs, that's nothing in the testimony supports that. So when you don't have facts, you go to all the innuendo that the attorney did. They put up a fence voluntarily. They weren't ordered to. They signed a training contract voluntarily. They weren't ordered to. And whether the board dismisses this or not, those things, or whatever the board does, if you dismiss it, they're still keeping those remedies in place, and they're actually open to any other remedies. Their trainer is assessing the property and seeing what else can they add to make the community, the neighbors, just the next door neighbors, feel safer. They don't want people to feel this way, but they also don't want to be blamed for something that they're not responsible for. So I understand the claim that the victim's being blamed here. It's simply not true. This owning a dog is about accountability, and my clients have been accountable. It's time for Ashley to be accountable and not try to blame on Duchess what happened, because the law just doesn't allow her to do that. So again, thank you for giving all of us the time to express our thoughts and feelings. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, at this point, I think, we've all heard the previous testimony from, I think it was 2 weeks ago. We heard a statement, statements again from council. I'd like to bring it back to the board and continue our discussion from 2 weeks from the hearing from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, George, please go ahead.
I, again, after reviewing the evidence again from both sides and the testimony from last week, I want to go back to our specific bylaw that says, first, we must make a finding as to whether the dog was reacting to another animal or to a person, and the dog's reaction was not grossly disproportionate to any of the following circumstances. The dog was protecting or defending itself, its offspring, another domestic animal, or a person from attack or assault. Number 2, the person who was attacked or threatened by the dog was committing a crime upon the person or property of the owner or keeper of the dog. The third one, I'm just going to read this one third one. The third person attacked or threatened by the dog was engaged in teasing, tormenting, battering, assaulting, injuring, or otherwise provoking the dog. My point is, where the complainant's items were found in the Allen's yard, these dogs were, I find, based on the testimony and the things that I've read, I haven't deemed that this dog is dangerous in any way. And if anything, he was defending his property. I've owned dogs my whole life. That's what dogs do. And I don't think it is appropriate to deem this dog either a nuisance or a dangerous dog. And I think we should dismiss this action.
Okay. Any other statements from board members? Jeff, please go ahead.
Yeah, I pretty much diametrically opposed to George. First of all, there's no proof that this person provoked the dog. That certainly is not a factual statement. The dog, I have dogs all around me too, and my biggest risk is getting licked to death of dogs that live in my neighborhood here. So I don't know where my property line is exactly. I know where our neighbors are approximately. We all live in a wide open area. So if I stray 5 feet or 10 feet on my neighbor's property, I do that all the time. So that's what neighbors do. And most of the time I'm doing it to bring their dogs back to their house because they've run away. So I don't think this is a dangerous dog. And I think the Allens have taken a lot of steps to try and identify any issues and rectify the situation. But I'm in favor of a decision to make the dog deemed to be a nuisance.
All right. Any other statements?
I'm actually looking. I don't see Paul. Is he on here still?
I see
he
Paul
was
still.
on, yeah.
He's muted right now.
Yes,
Where
yeah.
are you, Paul?
Yeah, I think he actually
There.
logged off. I think he fell off and then.
No, he's here. I see him.
No, he did. I know. I have him right here. I pulled
You
him
have to
back.
unmute. You have to unmute yourself, Paul.
There you go.
I keep getting disconnected and coming back.
I mean, I'm a little bit in between them, and like with many things, so there are questions here. There's questions as to where it happened, and you know, I know there may be extenuating reasons, but the one person who can really testify where this happened did not testify. You know, and that is problematic. To me, where it happened is a little bit less important. I know they talked about you know, dogs are allowed to defend themselves like when in a cage and sometimes when in a confined space and or in guarding like their litter or something like that. But I don't know of how much dogs like no property boundaries. And I look at the one unbiased testimony is from Luke Tedstone, Sergeant Tedstone, and talk about how the properties abut each other. In fact, I would suspect there's many neighbors in Sherborn have never had fences, probably not exactly sure where the property lines are, sometimes myself included. But with that, you know, I still go back to General Laws 140, Section 136A, under the definition of nuisance dog under 3. It says, you know, forget the livestock section, has threatened or attacked livestock, domestic animal, or person, but such threat or attack was not a grossly disproportionate reaction under the circumstances. So you did have 2 dogs fighting. There was, you know, some damage to the other dog, to the Portuguese dog. And there's clearly damage to a human who got involved with it. So there certainly was some damage to someone. It does not seem like it was possibly grossly disproportionate, given that it wasn't a dog fight. But I worry about precedent. I think that, you know, when there is a dog attack on a human, unless it's the very, very specific circumstances of defending litter or what have you, that I think some decision needs to be made. So, you know, there might be some unknowns and gray zone in here. I worry about throwing it out and creating a precedent for the future. I'm certainly at least willing to consider a nuisance dog with no remediation, as it does appear they've put up a fence. And so there's been some remediation already done. And I think that's, you know, not the harshest decision, but it's reasonable and it protects precedent. Yeah, George, go ahead.
Eric, I have one question. How are we certain which dog was the attacker here? Maybe the complainant's dog is actually the dangerous dog that was off the leash. Did that dog come onto the property and attack? How do we know? I mean, why are we deeming, there were 2 dogs in a fight here, right? Why
Yeah.
one dog dangerous and not the other?
Well, nuisance, I do want to say. I don't think, and correct me, I'm not going to ask the board across the board. Does anyone consider this a dangerous dog? Is anyone actually going to?
No.
I don't think any one of us, I don't want to speak for Paul, but is going to thinks it goes to that serious. I think basically the discussion here is between probably some form of nuisance to no decision. If that's, and I don't know, Paul, if you want to say your thoughts, if you think it's going to be anything different here. Yeah.
So my thoughts are, I went over and looked at the properties today. And I read not only the packet from last week, but I went through the packet of new information that was supplied by both sides. And I was quite impressed by the photographs. But I don't recall having seen the photographs before, so I think they might have been in one of the late submissions. But the extent of the injuries to the dog Tucker and the extent of the injuries to the complainant, when I looked at it, I looked at those photographs, they were shocking. So then I went back and I looked at Ted Stone's report. And Ted Stone's report, the animal control officer's report, had an interview with the other neighbor, this guy Goddard, Rick Goddard. And his statements to the police were that this was not on either party's property. It was on the property belonging to the Mish family. And so I, in my mind, believe it to be true that this occurred on neither party's property. As far as the question about which dog did the attacking, the police report indicates that it was a white dog that initiated the attack, and that dog was identified as Duchess. That's one of the reasons why we have an animal control officer. He's supposed to conduct these investigations. And the statements from the complaining party in the police report indicated she identified the attacking dog as Duchess, but there were 3 dogs who came as a pack, according to Goddard. It also means that the 3 dogs, if you credit Goddard's statements, and if you credit the complaining party's statements, 3 dogs crossed the electric fence line. And that leads me to think that the electric fence isn't as secure as it should be. Because if 3 dogs can get out, which seems to me the likely case, then there is a situation at risk where a person or persons walking on their own property or in someone else's property or even on the street, if all that's between them and 3 dogs is an electric fence, the way that electric fence works is that once you're past the electric fence, there's no further control over the dogs. And once the dogs learn to go through that electric fence, I mean, I have the same, I used to have electric fence for my cattle, and they learned there's a momentary shock and then they can keep going. So I had to replace all of my electric fences with hard fences. I don't think the fences that are there are adequate. That is, the Allen fences are adequate for a dog that has learned to be able to go through an electric fence. So I think that I would support the notion of a nuisance dog with a remedy of a real fence. One of the things I observed when I visited the properties today was that there is this black wrought iron fence that the complaining party put on her property. What the law says for a fence is one that goes 2 feet under the ground and goes 6 feet up. So her fence looks very stout and looks like it would be useful in most cases, but it's not compliant with what really needs to be here if you have a dog that has learned to go through an electric fence, it's not 2 feet under the ground. So I'm inclined to say this is a nuisance dog, and a real fence should be installed in compliance with what the general law says for fences. That's where I come out.
Okay. So let me ask you, Paul, as you saw it. But there was some fence there, correct? Because let me ask, so there was some fence there. It wasn't the 2 foot below and 6 foot up fence, but what was the fence? I guess, can you describe the fence that was there?
Well, the fence that struck me most was this wrought iron fence. It's a very expensive, very stout fence that looked to me to be 6 or 7 feet tall, quite sturdy. That was installed by the complaining party and entirely around their property line, from what I could see. I did not go all the way in back of their houses. I did not see the Allen fence that was installed. I don't doubt that there is or was something there, but it wasn't visible to me from. I went to both the Allen side and the complaining party side, but on the Allen side, the dogs were in the front yard loose, and one of them actually came down the hill towards me, so I decided not to proceed further, not knowing where the electric fence was or wasn't. So I didn't see the Allen fence.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
I just have to say, with an electric fence, as a dog owner for 15 years, electric fences do contain dogs. I think you guys are, and also as somebody who grew up on a farm, Paul, electric fences for cows are way different than electric fences for dogs. Cows are not as smart as dogs, to be blunt. Dogs can be trained to stay within an electric fence. I think the other thing that we do need to consider is the overwhelming community comments that we got about this dog in particular. I mean, the comments are like, this is a lazy old hound dog that likes to lay around, and I mean, I don't know. I just find it, I can't believe we're actually going to name this dog a nuisance dog, but that I've said my piece.
I have a little issue actually with, I don't know if there's any fence really. I mean, how realistically you look at any dog owner that's responsible and puts up a physical fence to go 2 feet down. I think that might be the letter of the law. I have a little problem kind of requiring that. It seems a little excessive, you know what I mean? And I
agree.
It might be what the law says. I fully get that. But really, probably, I don't think Duchess is going to go 4 feet down and, fall underneath it if something happens. You know what I mean? If there's I'm going to call it a reasonable fence. If there's a reasonable fence that, a dog can't get around, in my opinion, there's been some remedial action that's been taken. At least that's my opinion. I'm not, just to pick on someone, Jeff, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
No, I agree with everything Paul said. I think clearly, I mean, electric fences don't work. I don't care what, I bring back my neighbor's dogs and they get through the fence all the time. I know that, who knows what. I mean, sometimes there's a power outage or something, but other times they definitely get through electric fences. I know that. So I don't think that, they took normal, proper precautions, I think, and I don't think its fence needs to go 2 feet down, but I do think this is definitely a nuisance dog in my view, and I do think a fence would be a useful recommendation.
But it's still not clear to me. I thought the dog owners did put up a fence, and all right.
Well, it sounded like it was a sort of a temporary or a makeshift fence. I know that they object to the term snow fence or cattle fence, but it sounds like it wasn't a
chicken wire is what the
livestock fence is a lot different than chicken wire or snow fence.
Well, yeah, but neither one would be what you would probably want in this situation, I don't think. Both aesthetically and protection wise.
All right, I'm inclined to, and as people know, and I'm often the moderate on the board here in many of these decisions. I worry about precedent. I'm concerned a little bit about the lack of testimony from the one witness that can, testify to location, but it is what it is. I do think to the severity of the bite and the testimony of Sergeant Tedstone, I'm willing to actually consider this a nuisance dog. I actually think the defenses that are up, that actually remedial action has been taken, but maybe people can disagree with me.
So how about trying to build consensus here that we leave the fence, we have the fence inspected by the animal control officer. And if he believes the fence is adequate, then so be it. And if he believes that there are ways for the dog to get around it, then leave it up to him to work with the property owners.
Okay.
Again, this is not saying that anything about the property owners are fine on both sides. We're not in any way being critical of anybody here. What I'm worried about is the next person. Once a dog bites, you start down a track that's a little different than a dog that's never bitten before. This dog there were 15 bites apparently. When you look at the photographs, or 7
Maybe we
bites.
should also educate the public not to stick their hand into a dog fight.
But people are what they are. And my duty, I think, is to protect the people first. I have a dog, make it clear, I love my dog. But our primary duty is to protect people. And sometimes people make mistakes. But when you look at the photograph of the hand after the bites, as I said, between that and the picture of the dog, the testimony was it was like a wolf pack of 3 dogs that were circulating Tucker. This is from Rick Goddard, who wasn't neither a property owner on either side, but came in and had to kick the white dog away. It's just not a good situation, and I just don't think I can walk away from it. And then if another bite occurs or somebody else gets injured, I don't want that on my conscience. I'd rather err on the side of public safety and taking care of people.
Okay, so is that a motion, Paul, to declare the dog a nuisance and to have a inspection and judgment by the dog, the animal control officer as to accuracy of the fence?
Yes, okay. That's.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, I'm just gonna continue with the dog just because I do want to clarify when I talked about precedent, it was actually not precedent that Duchess may bite again. I actually am less concerned about that Duchess may bite again. I'm concerned about precedent on the long term as we actually do more dangerous dog hearings. That, when there is a severe human injury, I think there needs to be some kind of declaration, or should be, particularly if it fits within the definitions as written here under Mass General Laws. And so that's what I meant when I said precedent. And I think that is important for our decisions moving forward. So we have a motion and a second, just to clarify, to declare the dog a nuisance dog. And again, to have the animal control officer do an inspection of the fencing of the properties and determine if they are adequate to prevent this or to contain the dog. Okay, so I'll do a roll call vote. All in favor, George.
Nay.
Jeff.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And I am aye as well. Okay, it is 3-1. I believe. I assume I have to do a roll call vote to close the hearing? Is that correct?
I think we already closed the hearing, but.
Is it with the vote? Okay, with the
I think
Zoom.
we closed it last week.
I closed the testimony. That's right. I don't know if that's one and the same, but let's
I
just,
move to close the agenda item, close the
there you go. Was there, do I have a second?
subject matter.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, George,
Aye.
Jeff,
All right.
and Paul?
Aye.
I might as well. Well, thank you, everyone, and thank both sides. And I hope this brings this matter to a conclusion. Okay, without any further ado, we'll go on to agenda item number 4. It is a consideration of local declaration of emergency enacted by the select board on April 2nd, 2020. That is the COVID relative emergency declaration. And this will be a discussion regarding, it says here, the town hall reopening, but I want to clarify it's town hall and all public buildings under control of the select board as well. Now, who's going to initially speak in this? Because I know I'd spoken to Diane and David a little bit over this last week and to the COVID team about asking about, you know, what actions were taken to actually do the emergency declaration, what actions were taken to close the public buildings, and so what actions we have to do to essentially undo that. So I guess first I'd like that just information purposes, and I'll take a discussion to the board as the thoughts on ending the emergency declaration and general opening public buildings. I'll let David or Diane.
David, if you wanted to.
Yeah, as far as, I mean, the select board did an emergency declaration, but there's emails to the employees from me in response to the governor's order for all employees to be working from home if they possibly can work from home. And I think the Board of Health reiterated that. So in that March, whatever year it was, that the employees began working from home. In July, I started an effort trying to bring them back into town hall. And the Board of Health at that time was saying, no, it's too soon. So I said at that time, and Jeff, you might remember this, I said, I'm not going to tell the employees to be coming back into the building unless the Board of Health says that it's clear, basically. Was that?
Yeah, they made a recommendation. I don't recall, Daryl's on, I don't think they voted. I think it was the select board that voted on their guidance. And it was really not a Board of Health guidance, but a COVID team, which includes Zach and Lieutenant Bento and you know, the entire COVID team recommended that we declare a local state of emergency. We'd had some weird things happen. Remember, there was the post office. We had to shut down the post office very quickly because there was an outbreak at the post office that wasn't really known, and it wasn't a Sherborn resident, but we had to take some actions in March that were pretty abrupt, and so that's why we went about that. It wasn't just for town employees. It was, turns out, buildings in town, including non-town buildings like the post office. But it turns out the only one you can't shut down is the post office because it's a federal building. So we can't overrule the federal government. But it was intended to include all, you know, town issues. You know, if say an incident happened at the dry cleaners or the Citgo or something, we just wanted to be aware of that.
Right. But there we
Also,
discussion. I'm sorry, Daryl. We did have some discussion about that we didn't want to pull employees back unless they knew that the Board of Health had cleared the building, or under whatever restrictions the Board of Health was comfortable with.
I do want to jump in real quick here before you get too distracted. We are kind of talking about two different things. We're talking about commercial properties. We're talking about like dry cleaning, stuff like that. That can be a little separate discussion. I'm talking about public buildings under the control of the select board, because that's what we can control. I want to say that private buildings are more under the purview, frankly, of the state guidance, but I don't want to enter kind of an endless discussion about it. I really want to stay focused on, you know, right now the select board does control certain public buildings, town hall being the obvious one. So I want to at least narrow the discussion at least to that right now.
Well, actually, though, Eric, the only thing is when you read the Article 4, the first line, it's the local declaration of emergency. That was more than just town buildings. The declaration of local emergency is broader. The sub-bullet under it is the town hall reopening, and I would include in that other town building reopening, but the the declaration of local emergency had broader powers.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to that in a second, but George has his hand up, so I'd
Yeah.
like to recognize George.
Okay. I'm just gonna say that I think we should follow the state's guidance and the state of emergency is over June 15th, and why don't we do the same thing? In fact, I think we're probably better than some places in the state as far as where we stand now. So I think we should just follow the state guidance and we don't need to have anything special in Sherborn.
Yeah, in
We're
fact,
cer-
it's not just even the state of emergency. They've even authorized full occupancy of buildings as of like midnight 2 days from now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're,
Don't
we're
worry.
sort of better, but we don't have steps on town hall yet. So
Yeah, there's that.
we
but
have one
that's a
factor
whole
that-
other issue.
Yes, but I'll get delayed for other reasons. Other reasons, no question about it. I guess that's where I was going with that. Because I mean, and again, I'm not looking on the rabbit hole. I'm not sure, Jeff, if our vote affected the private commercial buildings that much. I think that was largely the governor's edict kind of determined what the Heritage did and what CNL Frosties did. Do you know what I mean? I think
I'm
follow
not.
the state guidance.
We took some actions in the post office situation. The fire department did.
Can I chime in for a moment, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
Yeah.
So the state of emergency, both the statewide one and the local one, it basically gave certain town officials the authority to intervene in a private setting, although the post office was a challenge. But say, like Mr. Waldron alluded to, say if there was an issue with the dry cleaners, we could then act. But the state of emergency doesn't, as a overall, affect those buildings as they operate today. But if an issue arose, they could. And I actually do have some authority under the fire code for hazards and occupancies, and some of those could potentially be public health related as well to intervene. So
okay. I do recognize Daryl because she has her virtual hand up.
All right, so we followed the rules from the state, the governor, the DPH before. And so the town hall was closed to some degree, not 100%. There were occupancy limits that were established. We were operating within that, I believe, most of the time at least. The guidance was if you can work remotely, do so. And that was done. Services carried on. We would have looked at variations to that if town functions could not have been carried out. But I'd say all the departments did a fantastic job on finding workarounds for it so that other activities in life could continue. So now the rules are that everything can open. So the Board of Health recognizes that that is what the new guidelines are. However, the concern that was raised at our last Board of Health meeting is that there may be people for whom there's a distinction between returning to pre-COVID behaviors doesn't mean that the pre-COVID condition of no COVID now exists. So for some people, whether it's kids coming into town hall who do not have the benefit of being vaccinated yet, or other or employees who may have underlying health issues, that would be a confidential matter. But I think we want to encourage the town to make some accommodations for that, recognizing that this virus is still present and it's not just back to normal for everybody. So that's what we're suggesting. Not that town hall does not reopen or anything like that. So that's basically what we talked about. And I don't know if Matt
has his hand raised. I'd like to
okay, great.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yep.
Take it away, Matt.
No, I would sort of, the way I would think about it is like, kind of to your point, I think that there's a piece of this that's a question of, what is the availability of buildings that we sort of offer as a municipality, which again, I think, is open by the state. I think on the flip side, I would encourage the select board and the town as employers to say, what's the response in terms of supporting employees who may have underlying health conditions or variable comfort in terms of being able to continue to incorporate remote work, as many businesses across the state are. Certainly my own institution is doing that into the fall. And so I think that there's sort of a two-part question. One is, for the building with no stairs, when can we let people not go in the front door, but come in the side? And then the second question is, as the employer for the people who work in town hall, what are the strategies we use to support them as employers across the state are in this transition phase, and sort of what does that look like? But I don't think there's any prescription on the availability of town hall or any accommodation in terms of the public's access to it.
Well, okay, thank you. I'll speak for myself. I think I'm in agreement with what's been said here. I would like, to go back to the 100% occupancy, the opening up of the public buildings, but of course you make special provisions for certain people that are either immunocompromised or whatever else. If someone doesn't want to come into town hall, we can make an arrangement, like a citizen wants to stay in their car or something like that, for someone to come out and meet them, or something along those lines. As for the opening of town hall, I think we still have to make those provisions. If someone needs something, like if the stairs are still down by the time the next taxes are due, I'm sure there's going to be provisions there, kind of obvious ones. Someone can't access, can't make is what do you call mobility impaired, can't access town hall. Obviously, even for that reason as well, we'll make special provisions. I guess, is there any more thoughts on the board?
Well, I was just going to add, I don't think Sean's on. There's a lot of people that are ZBA tonight too, so we got a dual. I believe that they're targeting to have the stairs done by the end of June, but we thought, to be safe, that perhaps would be likely right out. Oh, there he is, after July 4th holiday.
Yeah, I think too. But town hall still operates and we need it.
Yeah.
When are the next time?
Sean's here. Sean is here.
Wait, before Sean chimes in, George did raise his hand, so I just want to give.
I'd rather have Sean talk before me.
Okay, got it. Sean, you round?
I didn't really have anything to say. I just wanted to know I was here. I don't have a hard date. They were pouring concrete today, but it still takes a while to get the railings done and everything inspected, and then the part of the parking lot has to be fixed to meet the ramp. So I wouldn't pin your date to that. If we had to open, we'd be probably asking for the state for a waiver and make ADA accommodation.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take this opportunity just to remind the public, I'm not sure how many people know, that the June 15th election date has been moved to the DPW garage for the reason of accessibility. Yeah, Paul?
A couple of things. First, I wanted to just thank Sean Killeen for the progress that's being made on the sidewalk. That was beautiful. Looks beautiful. Very exciting to see that finally done. We've been working on it for seems like 10 years. It's nice to see that move along. I understand we need to reopen, but I wanted to impress upon everybody the need to respect individual comfort, both of the public and of our employees. If there are people who can do their job from home and are being effective and productive, I don't see that, and they're not comfortable being in town hall, or their vaccines, the second vaccine or whatever hasn't been administered yet. They want to take a little more time. I think we should be respecting that. And the same thing with the public. If somebody doesn't want to come in the building because they're not comfortable, that we should go out and meet them. Because at the end of the day, it's the public's town and it's the public's building. We should be accommodating those people. So I don't see any hard and fast rules here. But I also did want to put out a plug for the continuation of Zoom meetings or hybrid meetings. It's something, as you know, I've been working on at the state level and lobbying different legislators to get the legislation enacted by June 15th, and that'll provide some choices for us about doing hybrid meetings, and maybe we're going to need to invest in a little technology so that the good things that came from hybrid meetings, the good things that came from Zoom meetings, which is better participation by the public is continued. And again, if there's any member of any board who doesn't feel comfortable being in a confined space for a long time and wants to do it by Zoom, during this period of time, as Darrell said, there's still COVID out there, so we ought to respect that, and we ought to work on a process for hybrid meetings going forward.
I think many agree. I'm just going to take the two hands out order. I see them out. Daryl and then George. So Daryl, please go ahead.
All right, actually, Paul ended up saying most of what I want to say, which is we've heard from quite a number of committee and board members that they are not comfortable with returning to a crowded room where they may sit for hours, where visitors might have the chance to come and go and not spend as much time, but they are potentially there for many hours in an indoor space, which I still think is very different than outdoor spaces. So I'd agree with what Paul just said about supporting hybrid meetings for as long as we can. Thank you.
George, go ahead.
I'm going to disagree a little bit that I think we need to get back to having regular meetings. I think we should have, I like the idea of component where people can participate remotely so they can see what's going on in our meeting. I like that more people are participating, but I think there's a lot of distractions at home. I'm sick of being on Zoom meetings. I think we need to get back to normal when we have such low rates and everybody in the country is getting back to normal. We've got the state, everything's getting back to normal starting Saturday. I think we're ready to have live meetings, but hopefully we can continue the participation by having some sort of technology where people can still participate from home. But I think as our duty as a board, we should be having open meetings in the public. I'm kind of done with this Zoom stuff.
One thing I do want to add one thing, if that's okay, Paul, and then I'll let talk. I think you might say something that's going to be very good after what I say. Is that really the hybrid and the Zoom meetings are the most thing out of our control. It is the open meeting law that dictates that, and it was the governor's state of emergency. So the select board actually extends or doesn't extend or do anything with the state of emergency. And Paul, that's why I'll Paul talk after, so he can correct this if I'm wrong. Will not affect our ability to do Zoom, do hybrid, or anything else. So it's a good discussion. I just don't know how germane it is and relevant it is to our state of emergency or opening of the public buildings. I think many people support some form of it, but I just don't know how much it matters or what we can do. I think it's out of our control. And Paul, please go ahead now.
Well, I'm just going to clarify something for George, that when I talked about hybrid meetings, I'm talking about meetings in which some people are present who want to be present, and some people are participating by Zoom. And the idea is, let's say we're having a select board meeting, and there's 4 of us, and the 4 of us choose to be there. The public can participate not just by coming to the select board meeting and raising their hand and going to the microphone, but that a speaker can also speak to the microphone via Zoom from their home or from wherever remote place they are. So it's not an either or situation. It's trying to marry the two. Because what was really nice about Zoom provided an element that wasn't available with cable TV. With cable TV, I was there when the wave of cable came through and we were suddenly on TV. Well, people could watch us, but in order to participate, they had to run down the town hall and throw open the doors and come into the meeting. Zoom allows people to participate as if they were at the meeting, and therefore our participation rates went up. I haven't done the math, but my recollection over the years that I've been a select board member, we'd have like 3, 4, 5 people there, and sometimes where there's a controversial issue, we'd have more. But now I think we're averaging much more. And statewide, we're seeing the participation rates 10 times in some communities over what they were having before. So I see it as a way of better democracy, better accountability, giving people a stake in their own community, and allowing much better communication and transparency.
Thank you.
So it's,
Said that, so there's a virtual hand raised of Daryl, and then I'll see George, but I'm going to ask both Daryl and George if it has to do with the pros and cons of Zoom to really keep it to a minimum.
Oh, no, I wanted to comment on something in the chat. That was so.
Okay, let me hear from Daryl real quick. If is it just more about the Zoom? Because I think at this point, I don't think it's going to affect anything or even is relevant to our decision, frankly, to pull the emergency declaration or open public buildings.
I was just going to address a question you had, saying that if the emergency provisions of the state go by the wayside, then that has to take another act. But I guess we're looking for support if they pass the bill that is now before the legislature that would extend this, then we'd like the town to go along with that. Thank you.
Yeah, George. Yeah.
I was just going to comment. Matt Vitale had commented. I think this is an important thing to comment on the chat. He commented that Zoom meetings are 1,000 times easier to attend and participate as parents of young kids. I have not as young kids. My kids are teenagers, but me having meetings at home every other Thursday is actually a distraction to my family. I'm constantly shushing people, constantly like, it's a disruption in our lives. It's the select board meeting coming into our house. Talk about, and another thing, like some people may not have a completely private room to go to, and we're trying to do executive sessions. I don't think Zoom is the complete answer. We just, I think we can make it work by having live meetings again.
Okay. I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back away from Zoom and away from public meetings. I'd like to bring it back to emergency declaration of the select board, because I know we're gonna go on and on and on about the Zoom. Emergency declaration of the select board and occupancy of public buildings under the select board. I don't know if I don't need a vote there. If it's one vote or two, it's still a little unclear to me. I've been asking frankly all week, and I think people have heard me, but maybe we simply maybe this best thing to do is to take a vote on the one to simply follow the governor's guidance on the current occupancy of buildings for public buildings under the select board, and two, perhaps move to end the select board state of emergency consistent with the state state of emergency. That's what I would like to see. Is there any motions relative to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would just repeat what you said. I think that's the motion. I think we can, modify if we need to. I don't think we need a local state of emergency. I think we can have two votes, one to end the state of emergency, which we didn't have to enact in the first place. We chose to do that. And then the other is to follow the state's guidelines for opening, public buildings.
Okay, or I think it's occupancy of buildings will make it consistent with buildings under the select.
Yeah.
This is.
So we probably have to do both, because I think the state of emergency is separate.
Right.
Let's do two votes maybe to be consistent.
Is that right, Paul?
For the motion.
I just wanted to repeat the caveat that I had. I'm going to vote yes on both of those motions, or one motion for both subjects, provided that we accommodate people, both employees and the public, during a transition period. So if somebody's.
Oh, sorry. With extenuating circumstances.
Yes, I mean, anybody who's not comfortable coming into the building, a member of the public, I like to see our staff go outside and deliver the papers to them. And if there's somebody who doesn't, some employee who hasn't got their vaccine done and they want another week working from home, I think we should accommodate our employees. They're all excellent, hardworking. Let's not make this such a, hey, you got to be in tomorrow or else.
I want to gauge that last example you used there, because I'll rather say extenuating circumstances. If someone chooses not to get a vaccine, they don't get this license to work at home for a year, you know what I mean, or whatever it is. I understand what you're saying. You're talking about someone who's delayed a little bit or whatever but I don't want to open up I hate to talk specifics. I see us as a policy setting board. I want this to be a policy about public buildings and a policy about the emergency. And I would like to less talk about specifics and take that down to the, to the management of town administration. George?
I was just going to say, I think one way to deal with that is to say, we open town buildings with the accommodation that employees directed with individual accommodations in accordance with state law and personnel administration plan.
Okay. So somewhere there's a motion from someone, right?
Well, I don't think the state law.
I'll make a motion. I think I'll move that we lift the state of emergency immediately, to be quite honest. I don't think we need to wait till June 15th, and that we do building openings in accordance with the state as of May 29th, with the accommodation that will deal with individual accommodations in accordance with the state law and the personnel administration plan.
Okay.
I would wait till June 15th, so you're forcing me to vote.
Why? I don't know why the state waited, so I'm wondering why. What's the difference between today and June 15th?
Because the whole thrust of our discussion was to follow the state leadership. And suddenly we're saying,
fine,
we're not going to follow the
doesn't
state
matter.
leadership.
I don't want to discuss it. Just
Okay, so it's a friendly amendment by George. So George has moved to,
Yep.
Okay, I think we understand your motion.
Well, I think I'm still separating them. I think George is right. The state of emergency isn't dependent on the state, because Dover didn't institute a state of emergency. Not every town did. So I think we could lift that now independent of the state, and maybe we wait or follow the state guidelines. The one thing is, when George mentioned the personnel board and the state regulations, there may be situations where those aren't specific enough, like someone with autoimmune disease that I have a friend that has acute myeloid leukemia, and he had 2 vaccine shots. He got vaccinated, but he developed no antibodies because he's on a suppressed immune system. So that may be a person by person variation, not state law or personnel guidelines.
I think we should deal with that with the HR. David Williams has his hand up, and I think it's probably
David.
I was just going to say, Jeff, that is it's an HR personnel thing with a personal accommodation. The bylaw already provides for a work from home policy for, approval from supervisors.
Okay.
And we can amend that, but yeah, it would require some people, an individual agreement with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way George said it, to be honest with you. I don't like it when we talk specifics here with the select board about individuals and individual circumstances. And there's one example I was saying about someone who doesn't get a shot, works at home for a while. That kind of scares me, that kind of talk. I don't, I don't like those types of specifics. I just like the generic. And we have a public administration policy, whatever it's called, bylaw.
Personnel administration plan, yep.
We have it for a reason,
Okay.
I think it does cover a broad
So what
range.
are we voting on? Let's vote on over.
Let's vote first to lift the state of emergency as of June. I'll take Paul's friendly amendment, June 15th.
Okay, so I second George's motion to lift the local declaration of emergency.
On June 15th. All right, all in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I'm aye as well. Okay, now about public buildings and opening public buildings consistent with the governor's recommendations, state recommendations.
In accordance with state law and personnel admin plan.
Okay.
That's what
like George. Is there a second?
Sure, I'll second that.
All right, all in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am also aye. Okay, I think that finishes up that item. I don't think there's anything else. We'll probably talk again, I'm guessing on June 10th, more about public meetings, open public meetings. I think we'll know more by then what the state has passed or not passed. So I look forward to that discussion.
The one thing I'm not going to belabor, that hybrid is, we don't have the technology remotely for that hybrid solution.
No, that's a good target for the 10th. I guarantee there'll be agenda.
We don't. Yeah, it's a big deal.
All right. Next on the agenda number 5, litter pickup recap. Kathleen Rocchio, Kim Chester, and Addie Mae Weiss. And before you talk, I'll say that that structure at the split there was more effective than I ever could have imagined when we first kind of agreed to it. So
I'm trying to find people here.
Catherine, yeah.
It's under, Catherine Rocchio is under Isabella Garrett.
Oh gosh, sorry, my daughter. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you, and I know that's not Isabella Garrett. So.
I know.
Yeah, go ahead, Catherine. Do you opening up?
Yes, so we came before you guys in March, I think, to talk about our plans for litter letters to be established at the split. And we also our plan for a townwide pickup month for the month of April. And we're just here to report on the status of that. We greatly appreciate the support of the select board because the DPW was amazing in terms of support, in terms of getting the letters in place, and in terms of getting the letters retired and away for the summer. We wanted to let you know that we had a great response. We had about 150 different families sign up specifically on Sign Up Genius that we can reach out to again. We think we pulled out about 500 bags of trash. We met with the Pine Hill students in the end of March to do an all-school meeting to make sure there's enthusiasm about the project. We met so that we did a lot of press. I think you saw that. We used Nextdoor. That was your suggestions. We did town website, all of those. We did newspaper articles. We think it was a very successful activity. We'd like to do it again. And I want to turn it to Kim Chester for a second, to talk a little bit more about other sort of outreach we did while we did the effort.
Yeah, go ahead, Kim.
I want to thank the select board, the town of Sherborn, the DPW, and Catherine and Addie Mae for just all the incredible support of making this thing happen. We put Sherborn on an international map on the Litter Letters project, and the city of Melrose was so excited about what we did in Sherborn that they also did their own Litter Letters project. So now there are 2 towns from Massachusetts on that website, which is pretty exciting. And also kudos to the design and build team of Brian Phillips and David Chester. One of the things that we noted as we were doing our own pickups, and specifically deep diving into the wetlands on either side of the transfer station, is that we have a serious problem with litter getting into the wetlands. And it's probably, we surmise that it's twofold. One is there are lots of truck beds and litter is flying out of them as people are coming in and out of the wetlands or out of the transfer station. And then inside the transfer station itself, if you have any type of weather, things can move out of the dumpster bins and into the wetlands. So we are really excited and hoping to work with Sean as we look for some avenues of being able to trap that litter into the dumpsters so that it doesn't go flying into the wetlands. And we are hoping to put together some type of a plan with the town for addressing all of the litter that remains in the wetlands, so that we can be as conscientious about that water as we are water in other areas in the town.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah, plastic is a little too much ubiquitous in our environment and society in general. Is there any further comments or questions from the board? Yeah, George.
I just want to applaud you guys. I think this was such a great effort. It caught everybody's attention. You know, I know you did a outreach to Pine Hill, and my middle school daughters were both like, "We got to go clean up." It was great. I think you could have done a word that had 5 letters if you wanted to, and you would have filled them up. I mean, it was that's fortunate and unfortunate that we have that much trash on the side of our streets too. Like but you did notice a difference driving around after that month where people picked up. I did anyway. I just want to applaud the effort of the 3 of you. You really did a tremendous job.
Thank you so much. And we want to applaud you for getting out there and picking up litter. I loved seeing your photograph of you and your family. That was fabulous. Thank you. We're excited about doing it again. And Catherine's going to tee us up for a November cleanup, because the spontaneity of last year and the success of that, and when we tried to put it together just with 2 weeks advance notice, we think that it could be extremely successful. And we think that as you feel, you can see a difference there. It is cleaner. It looks so much better. And we know that so many people who never looked at litter before have come to us and said, "Hey, we see it now. We're going to work to keep it clean." So,
yeah, maybe hopefully, like, you do it again, maybe you won't fill up the letters. I don't know. You know what I mean?
The letters were just an art installation. You know, the letters were a tiny fraction of what really ended up getting picked up. You know, that was like a token representation.
Maybe
I
we'll,
picked up another garbage bag full of stuff at the end of my yard that's on Whitney Street last weekend. It's just, and put it out with my, it's just, people throw stuff out their windows that pass through town and it's just,
yeah.
it's gross.
Chuck reported that living on Maple too. Chuck all the time was picking up liquor bottles in particular.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There are two change.org petitions that have been put forward by Keep Massachusetts Beautiful, and one of them is to ban nips.
Nip
And
bottles.
the other one is to start asking the Massachusetts administration to start looking at funneling some of the millions of dollars that we spend in litter pickup and putting it into public service announcements, re-education, and awareness around the whole issue of litter.
Let me tell you, I've backed the nip ban forever. If you can't get that, try to get like a quarter deposit on them or something. You know what I mean? Make it just whatever it is. They're terrible on multiple reasons. It totally exacerbates drinking and driving and everything.
Absolutely.
Okay, Sue Tyler.
Yeah, I just want to say, as a longtime resident of Western Avenue, I've picked up more bags of trash. I've picked up a dead iguana that must have been about 3 feet long in a bag. But out of all the trash I picked up, it's the nips bottles.
Yeah.
I have written numerous letters to the state over the years regarding there needs to be something, at least put a 10-cent on those. There's 5 cents on a beer can. I don't pick up many of those, but I pick up nothing but nips. And I'm sorry, the majority of people that are buying all those nip bottles are not stocking their liquor cabinets with it. It's a quick shot on the way home. And so they need to have a bigger deposit on them so somebody will pick them up, or they need to just get rid of the nip bottles. Thank
Someone
you.
explained to me a couple years ago. I never realized it's the open container law. They take a drink, they toss it out, you never have an open container. And that's what it's all about. I never realized that till recently, but whatever. We're going on a certain pathway here.
But the bottles, yeah, I thank the ladies and everybody that was involved with the pickup around town, and the why. I didn't understand it when it first went up. I said, why? Now I know why. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. It was a very, very powerful statement here in town. Is there anything else from the board? All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Moving on. Agenda item number 6. Mass DOT award letter for shared winter streets and space program. Sean Colleen, DPW director. Is that you under Christine Colleen?
No, he's sharing a screen now.
No, I am.
Jeff sharing it.
Oh,
I actually,
but Sean's on his own.
the conversation around opening the buildings was so long, I made it back to my office, but Jeff's got the award letter. So we had applied for a shared street grant a while ago, and we were awarded it. And there's not a whole lot of time. You'll see there we have till June 30th to at least get back to the state to let them know how it's working out. The long and short is we were picking up on the work that we had done for close to a decade now or more, really, with the traffic and the speeds on Western Ave. And Paul will remember appointing me to a Western Ave intersections committee that also looked at that. We enlisted engineers at the time. This year, when we were getting ready to resurface Western Ave, we wanted to take one more look at it, see if there's anything physically we can do with the road while we're working up there. So Addie may help put this together. I should just say she did most of the work here. And anyone that drove down Western Ave the second half of today may have actually seen it. We found some temporary, they're actually planters, but they're weighted and they're used for exactly this, which is testing out islands. So at the intersection of Pleasant Street and Western Ave, which is also the entrance to Fessenden and the schoolhouse trails, we set those up today. And we've been tracking the speeds quietly. Nobody knows we were doing it, but we've been tracking the speeds for a couple weeks, speed and volume data. And we'll continue to do that so we can assess kind of scientifically if there's any adjustment in the speeds as they go by there. There's also going to be a lighted crosswalk, much like we have downtown and at Pilgrim Church. There's going to be one there at that intersection. We shifted the crosswalk as part of the test, but by next Tuesday, I believe those RFBs will be installed. That's kind of long and short of it. The test, will be able to test in different areas of Western Ave too after we do this initial test.
So I just want to clarify, this grant of $36,000 is to do the permanent islands and the RRFBs?
It's actually to do the temporary island. I mean, the RFBs are permanent. We can move them around, obviously, if we find it that where we move the crosswalk to. It's actually somewhat of temporary because we have to do some work on the road edge to make it ADA compliant. But as the test, we shifted it in the intersection.
Okay. Yeah, Paul, you had something to say?
Well, first I wanted to congratulate Sean and Addie Mae Weiss and all those who worked on this grant. Secondly, I wanted to say how much of a need there is for traffic calming on Western Avenue. This has been an issue facing the community for a very long time. And it's nice to see some creative thinking going into this. And the third point I would make is that it's just a legal point. We have to actually vote to accept the grant and use it for this purpose. There's a statute that requires grants to be accepted by the select board. So at some point, I want to make a motion to accept the grant and authorize its use for the purposes set forth.
I'll consider that motion now, and if there's more discussion. George, you had something to say?
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Sean. You're not tracking individual speeds down Western, right? No, just kidding.
Bell speed is something actually I've been involved with a lot. It can be very revealing. It's indicating, frankly, offline, John, I'd love to see that data when you're done with it. I really would.
I didn't. Sorry, Sean. I know you had told me about that today, and I did not go that way this afternoon, so I didn't get to see it. But I will see it in the morning because I drive that stretch every single morning. So.
Okay. Just so you know, for the first week or so, I stopped by Eric's shop today and picked up a couple of lighted signboards to advance warning people. We'll leave those up for a little while. That's probably going to diminish the speeds a little bit. And then we'll take them away. There's a flashing beacon on either side of it so that people can see it at night. But there's plenty of room there to get by. Anyone that thinks there isn't, I assure you the tractor trailers are rolling by plenty fast enough while we were out there with a couple of officers putting them out.
Did you tell Bento that he's going to have to find a new place for his officers to sit, not in the pheasant driveways?
Well, actually, it's a fine place for them to sit. We'll send some pedestrians across the crosswalk.
No, that's true. I'm just saying.
No, I did look at it today, and I actually sat in the parking lot. I observed people slowing down. I don't know if you can go less than 11 feet wide in width. 10 feet wide is for a turning lane and an intersection, 11 feet wide for a travel path. But I think even just the visual narrowing is enough. So it seemed sufficient to me, and it seemed to be effective as well. Okay, so we have a motion on the board to basically to accept this grant money and apply it to this work. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I don't think there's any further discussion. Actually, I don't have the participants up.
Jeff, can you take this? Can you take that screen down?
Yeah, Sue Tyler's got her hand up.
So is anything last minute as we're taking our vote?
Yeah, regarding that, I was just curious. First off, Traffic Safety Committee, I drove by it twice today. The island at the Fessett and Pleasant Street, it's working perfectly fine. But the agenda item says award letter for shared winter streets and space program.
That's what the grant's called.
Streets and space program. We going to Mars?
No.
It actually is called, it's supposed to be shared space. Actually, the basis of this is actually, it can be anything from like expanding sidewalks that a restaurant can go in to installing sidewalks to traffic calming. It's pretty broad.
Yes, but it says winter.
It doesn't, I'm not sure the grant actually says winter. Is that an error?
Yeah, it does.
Shared streets and space programs.
Well, the winter there's also some trails that do get used heavily in the winter. Again, it's a dual entrance. There's Fessett entrance. If you're crossing from Pleasant, you either go into Fessenden or you go into the schoolhouse trails, and that's part of it. There's a beautiful new sign at the entrance to the schoolhouse lot. And that was what we used as considered as the winter recreation.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
it was also just because that was how they're rolling these grants out. So it's been all year throughout this pandemic, there have been different grants time periods where you have to get your application in and then they're awarded. So we put our application in February, and we were going for that block of grants that were being awarded, the winter block.
Okay, and also I'd like to say, it's nice to see that the DPW also got the truck exclusion signs up on Weston Avenue and Brook Street. Thank you.
Thank you. And to the point, I believe the motion is actually on the letter as presented, not on, if there is any error on the actual wording of the agenda item. I think the motion in the second is actually on the letter as presented in this meeting. All right, so there's a motion and a second to accept the grant and apply it. I'll take a roll call vote, and I'll leave George last. Jeff.
I'm here.
Jeff.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
And George.
Aye.
And I am also aye as well. Good job. And by the way, the chat had a bunch of compliments on the sidewalk in downtown. Not on agenda, can't talk about a whole lot, but looks great to me.
Thank you.
All right, agenda item number 7. Vote to approve and sign the June 15th, 2021 annual town election warrant. General Laws 39, Section 1. Jackie Morris is to speak on this. Because I can't see everyone, I'm assuming we're somewhere.
I don't know.
Hi, I'm on my cell phone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I still don't have internet, so I'm on my cell phone.
You're coming through fine.
So yeah, so if you guys, sorry?
You're coming through perfectly.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, so if you guys could just vote to accept the warrant so we could post it for the annual town election.
So moved.
I'll make a so moved, yeah. Or second to Paul's motion.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I'm also aye. Okay, very good.
Jackie, I'm sorry to hear about your house. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, a lot of stuff got fried. I just spent all day, but thank you for the Sherborn Fire Department and the police department. That's all I can say. They're awesome. So, but thank you. Yeah, it was a crazy night and crazy.
I think I heard it from my house. We had a loud clap, and you don't live very far from me, so I think I heard exactly when it happened.
Yeah, everybody said they heard it. Yeah, it was right outside my window, and I was watching television, and the bedroom upstairs, my son's bedroom, one of the outlets just got completely fried and burned. Wow. And it just fried everything on the backside of the house.
Wow.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, so it's okay. At least it didn't catch on fire. So we're very grateful. Yeah. Very happy about that. So, but thank you.
You should play Powerball. It's up to 300 mil right now.
Yeah.
All right. Next is number 8, agenda 8, Town of Sherborn Library State Grant Anticipation Note Renewal. Heidi Doyle. Heidi, are you on here?
Yes, I am. Heidi's going to play the Powerball too, I think.
No, so this grant renewal is for the last portion, and it's not given out till the building's completed. We were hoping the building was going to be completed. It's not going to be done by June 30th. So Elizabeth has checked with the State Library Board. We're not sure when they'll release it, even if it's after building occupancy or timing. So we need to renew this amount of money again. It's $726,720. So I'm asking for a vote to go out to bid to renew this grant portion.
So move that we go out to bid.
All right.
Second.
Second. All in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
You might as well. All right. Thank you very much, Heidi.
Thank you.
We're getting close, Heidi.
Okay, number 9. It's a consideration of proclamation for Sue Tyler. Who is speaking to this? Is this Diane or David?
Hi, Eric. Yes, we have a proclamation to present to Sue Tyler tonight for all that she's done for the town and her volunteering, and she's just always there to lend a helping hand to everybody and anybody that needs it. So I'm hoping that maybe one of the select board members might be able to read the proclamation tonight for everybody to hear.
I do want to add a comment that not only has Sue been very active, but I don't know how many people appreciate what she's done on the cemetery. Sue goes back through records of that go past literally centuries, finds out the ownership of these old stones, where they belong, finds family members, and many times provides closure for members, or provides some kind of continuity and feeling of heritage. And really, she's done a lot for a lot of people on her act as a cemetery, and cemetery commissioner.
An enormous amount, including the one you left out, was cleaning and restoring gravestones, which is, she can show your hands after she spent a day there doing that. So
And all our work on traffic safety too.
we appreciate everything.
Absolutely, we can have it here. So
Try to find the proclamation if you want.
Yep. No, I found it here.
Got it?
Also. Yep. So there's a proclamation. Whereas Susan, parentheses, Susie, Tyler, a longtime resident of the town of Sherborn, has served the community with her unwavering devotion to our town, her quick wit and smile, and a willingness to lend a hand in need. Whereas she has served on various boards and committees, making significant contributions that will long be remembered. Her involvement in the Sherborn Fire and Rescue Association will surely be missed, along with all of her turkeys at the November dinner meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Whereas during her tenure as cemetery commissioner, she has updated the lot information at the Pine Hill Cemetery. In all the town cemeteries, and gravestones have been mapped by GPS and has identified all the veterans from various skirmishes and wars. Whereas Susan has also served on the Traffic Safety Committee, the Agriculture Committee, Disability Advisory Committee, Conservation Commission, and Reuse Committee at 23 Washington Street. Now and therefore, we, the Select Board of the Town of Sherborn, on behalf of all of its citizens, extend our heartfelt gratitude and appreciation to Susan Tyler for making the Town of Sherborn a memorable place to work and live. In witness thereof, we have caused the seal of the town to affix the proclamation of this, the 27th day of May in the year 2021, signed by each member of the Select Board. Thank you very much, Susan.
Should so move the formal adoption.
Take a bow. Take a bow.
I think we all need to tell our favorite Susie stories. I'm sure everybody's got one from a meeting.
I don't think I can actually say mine for being recorded.
Oh, don't say it. May I speak?
Yeah, please,
Of course.
Yeah, I've been here. I'm not gonna get emotional. I moved in as an 8-year-old girl coming from Stoughton, Massachusetts. My father was an old cattle farmer down in the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And my twin sister and I were the last of 8 children. And they had to move up from Maryland. My father was an orphan. And being a farmer, you knew how to work on machines. So my father and mother moved all the children up to Massachusetts, to Stoughton, where I was born. And my twin sister and I never knew what it was like to live other than on a little street corner. And my father saw an advertisement for a farmhand at Charlescote Farm on Farm Road. And he sold the only house he ever owned and the business he owned. So my twin sister and I could move to Sherborn and get an idea of what farming was like and open space was like. And from there, I had a wonderful childhood. We had our 4-H sheep. We lived on Forest Street across from what is now the parking lot for Rocky Narrows. And I drive by every spring to see the trees that I planted in 1968. And I had the pleasure of moving back to Sherborn as an adult with my children here on Western Avenue. And just like the house on Forest Street, I've got magnolias and all these trees that I've planted as a little girl. I planted now. And so I've got a long history in this town, and I just hope that the people that are moving in now can appreciate it as much as I have, and that Sherborn is that important, that it is unique. And I fear that we're losing some of that people move here for the school system and they don't get involved. I think a lot more people need to be involved in the town. And yes, you mentioned all my committees and traffic safety. I'm glad to see that the Pine Hill extension, we worked on that for many years. I've been on traffic safety since 2004. It's nice to see that's completed. And I'm loving every time I drive through the traffic downtown so I can see that sidewalk on the west side of North Main going in. And they say if you get involved in politics, that you get to know where all the bodies are buried. Well, as a member of the Cemetery Commission, I have to say I truly know where they all are buried. And I have really, really enjoyed doing all the records, finding everyone. There were 10 cemeteries in Sherborn. People need to get out and appreciate for what they are. They are the history of this town. And I will still continue to be involved with the cemetery. I will still be coming back. I'm sorry, I'm not leaving completely. I will be back. And as a parting gift for the town, I have been purchasing off of an auction site that's online. I'm not going to say the name. You all know what it is. But somebody apparently has a lot of records of Revolutionary War records that were for the town of Sherborn, Civil War records for the town of Sherborn. And I have been purchasing them with a benefactor so that we can leave those to the town of Sherborn. And as one parting thing, I hope you appreciate the Historical Society and the museum, and we give them a proper place. And at that, I'm not leaving Sherborn. Sherborn's a big part of me since I was 8. That's all. Thank you all very much.
Absolutely.
Well said.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Susie. It's been a pleasure. Truly, personally, I've really liked working with you. I've liked our conversations that we've had, and I appreciate you very much.
Yes.
I tell it as it is.
I know that.
Everybody gets the same truth out of me.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you all very much.
Could I make a motion to approve the proclamation?
Yeah,
we already did.
So we have.
You already made that motion. I seconded it. Did we vote on it, Eric?
Okay, let's do the roll call and says, even though we did each sign it, I will say, all in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I'm also
One last note tonight is I can't count how many times I sat at the Board of Health, and the only other 2 people sitting with me were Elliot and Sue. They were always, yeah, Elliot was always at the Board of Health in addition to the select board meeting. So
And I want you to know that Elliot Taylor, one year during one of the election cycles, he got 13 votes, write-in votes for a selectman, one of your seats.
Really?
unsolicited. Unsolicited. He didn't go tell people to vote for him. Completely unsolicited. 13 people.
And that man was the happiest he ever got. So this election cycle, he might get one more write-in vote.
There you go.
All right.
Good night, Paul. I'm off to the DBA to give him a piece of my mind.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, Susie. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susie. Absolutely. Okay, next on number 10. Continued review of the annual appointment process. Is Vicky on the call here?
Hey, look, I didn't see her, but maybe she is. Let me look again.
I spoke to her yesterday and she had a bad sinus infection, so she may not.
Yeah, I don't see her anywhere.
She was going to email me to tell me to sit in for her, but I haven't gotten an email. I am familiar with the process. she's worked a long time with David on this, and you should all have copies of the proposals there. So if you have questions, I can try to answer them if David doesn't have an answer for them. But she has been quite sick.
Mhm.
I wonder if it would make sense to just delay it. You know, we can review it. We've got a couple
Yeah.
executive session items tonight too, so.
One thing I do want to we want to make sure these procedures are in place before June when we really start getting.
Yeah.
Because we do have a lot of openings coming up and we want to make sure we're handling the applicants in the correct order, right? Nancy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's the main thrust of this, that we want to have applicants applying to the select, and Jeff, you've talked to them about this too. Applicants should be applying to the select board, not the individual boards, because we are the appointing authority. Boards should not be self-appointing.
And I think if you review what she sent out yesterday, I think this has been a work in progress. So changes have gone on, and hopefully you got the last iteration, but she has in red many of the suggestions that we had and the changes that she and David had worked out. So it might give you more time to look through those if you wanted to put this off as well. We did insert a few things that weren't there. And as I said, she and David have worked quite hard on this, and their suggestions are in. And we met as a committee. We had 2 meetings to discuss this. So this is our best effort so far.
Just to be clear, I don't think it was stated, Nancy, you're on the personnel board with Vicky. Just in case people are wondering what your role is.
Yes,
Nancy,
I'm the
representing
newbie.
Personnel board.
I'm the newbie.
I mean, at first glance, there's a lot of information. At first glance, it seemed consistent, but I would like someone to present it at some point, particularly for the public's perspective. Do you want to push it to the 10th? And then if they can't present to the 10th, we'll simply discuss what we have before us.
That works.
Okay.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Okay, could I, even in the documents you got, there's a lot of housekeeping that needs to be done on the new part as well as the old part, because there's a lot of references to the selectmen and the board of selectmen and the 3-member board and that kind of thing. Would you authorize me to work with Diane to get some of that housekeeping done so you get a complete document that's fixed?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we don't have to keep.
I don't want to touch it without you saying, you know, that it's okay, but there's a lot of housekeeping without changing the meaning of stuff in here with the old language.
I would appreciate that'd be appreciated, I think.
Yeah,
Okay.
no question. Okay, if that's with that one.
In the meantime, can I ask one question before we move on?
Yeah.
Because appointments do come up in June, should we at least, Diane knows what openings are coming up, at least start advertising for those positions? And also, I think we should establish, one thing we had talked about was advertising in a new age where we put it out on, like, have somehow the town putting it out on Nextdoor, the positions that are available. I think that's a good medium that a lot of people see in town. It's a way to get more exposure of what the open positions are that we're looking to appoint.
I don't think we addressed where specifically, other than the posting on the website, but we have said you should post openings and so forth. And David has the timeline for that. So I'm sure that he will get in the right places if you tell him where you want it.
Yeah, what the library's done is they don't put the posting of the report on the Nextdoor. They just have the link to the.
Right.
And then I like the idea of getting a bio. I'm not sure we need a resume for the candidates, but I think it'd be nice if we get like a paragraph bio. Not that you have to be qualified in some respects, but you want to know what their interest is and what their experience is. And I would like for them to speak to us, you know, when we at that meeting, not just the board chair.
Did Vicky send you a copy of the application the way we have suggested you include?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to look through it though.
Okay.
I don't see the application in our packet. I just see kind of the changes to the procedure. I don't see the actual application.
Well,
I think that Vicky emailed everything because there were changes after they.
Oh, okay,
went out,
sorry,
so
I'm
she
not
emailed
looking in
it.
the right place.
Yeah, as I said, we've been doing this as quickly as we can, but some of it on the fly. So there were changes that might have been late coming.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I think and obviously.
So yeah, my whole point was that concurrently, like, we don't want to delay posting these things until we get this figured out. I think we should also be posting the openings while we figure out how we go about the appointments.
Okay.
That makes sense, Nancy?
Yep. And there is a lot of information in this to try to digest in a short period of time.
Right.
I would say, just as a matter of law, that appointments carry over until their replacements are appointed or they're reappointed.
Yeah.
So it's not like on a date in June, we suddenly have no boards and no committees. And it's better to do things right, make sure we have everything set, and that there be the kind of communication to the public that Eric was talking about. So I don't see that we have that kind of hard deadline.
Okay, it's good to know.
One thing we could do is prioritize it too. So if we think we may not have enough volunteers, maybe figure out what are the high priority ones so that we don't have people volunteer for a board that's not as critical. And, you know, if we
Right,
have
well,
two-
there's also some people, I mean, people may be interested in Conservation Commission, but have no interest in being on the Personnel Board. Or,
yeah, no, that's true. That's true. But
if
we only have so
or
many
always-
volunteers, we want to steer them where we need them the most if we can.
That's true.
Well, as part of the new application thing, we also have asked for if they have any unique skills or talents or something
Yeah.
that would help a committee round out their board. So,
Good.
And, it's been said multiple times. Sue Tyler said it the best, where, try to generate people. Every time we see a large, polarizing, call it vote or article, I always hope that, each time 1 or 2 extra people come and become more involved with town government. So, whatever we do, I don't even know what to do to recruit for that stuff, but at least I talk about every chance I can.
I do too. I think that's part of it. I think a lot of it is really word of mouth, and people who are involved like us need to, I try all the time. I think it's hard with a lot of people. They don't feel like they have the time when they have kids and sports, but sometimes we can make time.
There's
Well, I
some
think-
community to meet less than 10 times a year. You start small.
I think Jeff brought your concerns and your interests to our board, and you'll see those listed in that paper too. And one thing he suggested was reaching out and so we've tried not to make the process too scary, but make it so that it's doable and it gives you the information you need to make your decisions.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yes, thank you very much, Nancy. With that, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 11.
Well,
May I-
Susie told us she was not going away. She warned us.
she's
You can't
back.
say she
Oh,
didn't
has the
warn us.
virtual hand. All right, no, you know me, I can't ignore the virtual hand.
I just want to say, for all the committees that I've been on throughout the years, it was word of mouth, but also already have been paying attention to what's going on. And so it is word of mouth, but it comes down to the selectmen, the appointing authority for these committees, unless it's an elected commission like the cemetery. And yeah, it's word of mouth. It's word of mouth, and how you get it out there, I don't know. I will say, as you said earlier, with all the Zoom meetings that we've had to endure for the last year, there has been a real uptick in participation and people going to different meetings just out of curiosity. So how you continue, I don't know, but it's word of mouth, but also more participation of the selectmen as to some of the appointments. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 11. Consideration of interim finance director position. David, is this you? Okay.
Yes. As you know, we had our former finance director / town accountant, Sharon McPherson, retired April 2nd of this year. And in accordance with the bylaw, the select board is required to appoint an interim finance director within 60 days after that departure. So that departure, that 60 days takes us to June 2nd, 3rd, whatever. So what I'm here to do is looking to have Deb Seifring, who was the assistant town accountant, and I have had her in an acting capacity as acting finance director / town accountant. And I'm recommending that she be appointed to satisfy the bylaw as interim finance director / town accountant. So we satisfy the bylaw. She can serve in that capacity for another 60 days. And if you haven't hired the finance director permanently, you can renew that appointment for another 60 days after that. And it seems it just keeps renewing for 60 days until you hire permanently. So we, as you know, we've had sidetracked with the police chief, conservation hiring, and a couple of other ones. So we haven't gotten the finance director off the ground yet. So just to cover those bases and keep going how we've been going, it would be nice to satisfy the bylaw and put that to rest.
Okay.
So I'll move that we appoint as recommended by the town administrator.
All right, George.
I'll second it, but I also just, Deb's here, so I'd love to hear
Yeah,
what's going for Deb and on all that. So Deb.
Would you like to make a statement?
Well, sure. Yeah, the last 2 months have been interesting for sure. And it's been good to put all the pieces together. I have been working for the town for 14 years, so more in of an assistant kind of capacity. So this has been a good experience to put all those pieces together and actually see how it all combines. So it's been a good learning experience, and yeah, I've enjoyed it.
She's done a great job, and now we're going into the year end. The audit's done for last year, and we'll be starting the current year audit soon. But Deb will be responsible for the year-end transfers and then bringing that list of transfers for the board and advisory approval in July. Sorry.
That's right, July 15th, I believe.
That's right.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to appoint for another 60 days. All in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
I am also aye. Very good. Thank you very much.
Deb.
Thank you for
Thank
your work.
you.
Deb.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, number 12, consideration of routine business. Are there any select board reports? Seeing none. How about town administrator report?
I wanted to just give one quick story about Elliot. I had conversations with Elliot, just like everybody else had over the years. But the one that I remember the most is one of my first meetings here, and it might have even been the first meeting. And Elliot was sitting in the audience, and I remember telling the select board that I spent the day walking around town today, and then out of nowhere I hear, "You should have kept walking." That was my first meeting with Elliot.
He was funny. He made Paul, I don't know if you remember this, Paul, when we had the special fall town meeting at Pine Hill that one year, you started to speak and he asked you to identify where you lived and who you were. And you were on stage. He stood up and asked that. He was so funny. And the beavers, he was always into the, he wanted to get
Jump the beavers.
He wanted to get rid of the beavers. Always the beavers.
One of the first years I was on advisory was the year that there was some issue with the heritage, and every vote at town meeting, was a lot of them were unanimous, and then you'd hear nay on every single vote.
It was the lighting. It was the lighting. I remember that very well, George. You're right.
The reason that man said no on every one of those motions at town meeting was he first stood up and said, I will vote no on everything until you fix the heating system at town hall.
Yeah.
Took the words out of my mouth.
Right.
And have we?
It's
Yes.
better. It's better. It's a better control system.
They're comfortable.
Actually, so the only story I was going to say about Elliot, and probably one people can't relate to, I think a lot of them knew him at a certain time. People don't realize that my father was quite a bit older and is actually older than Elliot Taylor, and actually remembered Elliot Taylor's very first day of school. I don't know if people know Elliot Taylor's father was a school bus driver. I think it was the only school bus at the time there for Solomon Academy. And Elliot, when crying to his father on day one of school, that he did not like school. And my father has told me that story many times. Yeah, it was a very, very different era. I think we talked about Sue's background. Sue's the one person I know that kind of spanned the old school farming Sherborn to basically suburbia Sherborn. Just like many of these communities surrounding Boston, once they built 128 in the Pike, you know, these took a turn. And yeah, and Elliot kind of was from that old school when it was very much, you know, it was a different place, but I think Sherborn's done a good job holding on to that, at least better than other surrounding suburb communities. That's all I'll say with that.
Farming by law, please.
All right.
Yeah, that's all I had. Thanks.
Is there anything else relative to, I guess that ironically was the town administrator report, and it turned out to being a little bit of a eulogy for Elliot. If not, I'll make a motion to go into executive session. We will exit executive session only to close the select board meeting. So as chair, I declare that executive session is warranted for the two items as previously read by the town administrator. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, George?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
And I am as well. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Night, Susie.
We can turn off the recording.